on this edition of the Self-Publishing Show.
Try to balance an addiction with 2 jobs and full-time school, and nobody can do that. And if they can, they're about to not be able to do it anymore.
Publishing is changing. No more gatekeepers, no more barriers, no one standing between you and your readers. Do you want to make a living from your writing? Join indie bestseller Mark Dawson and first-time author James Blatch as they shine a light on the secrets of self-publishing success. This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hello and welcome. It's the Self-Publishing Show on a Friday with me, James Blatch.
And me, Mark Dawson.
So I realise now that last week I said tomorrow I'm going to go and do this flight simulator with Dave Gledhill, the author. And now, a week later, I can't tell you what it was like because it's still happening tomorrow because of magic.
We're blatching.
We're batching. 2 in a row because Mark is off to Suffolk next week to enjoy some respite. Hopefully.
Yes, I'm going for a little holiday. We have a little house in Southwold, so I'm quite looking forward to recharging the batteries for a bit. It's been quite busy recently and trying to racing through the new Milton book, so kind of getting to 70,000 words for the 20th one, which is, very, I'm keen to get it out there because readers the last one ends on not really a cliffhanger, but more of a kind of an open loop, and quite an intriguing ending, and readers appear to be reacting to it because I'm not advertising at the moment and have already got 7,000 pre-orders for the next book. So, I want to get that out. I want to get it finished and then start thinking about how I'm going to be promoting it in terms of the cover reveal and the things that we go into in the launch course that I put together last year or this year. Don't know when it was this year.
This year, I think. Yeah. Yes. Talking of courses, we have a call this afternoon. At least I'll be on the call this afternoon with 2 authors who have cracked TikTok, not from an advertising point of view, but from an organic point of view. They're romance authors. I'm going to say they're convinced TikTok is a good place to be and a place where you can sell books much better than Instagram. And they've moved off Instagram as a result of this. And I'm going to say it's not just them saying that. They've got the hard facts to prove it. They're very well organized, very businesslike, and they've got the metrics and they're teaching it really well. So we're going to have a discussion with them. We've got the podcast episode coming up, but I'm going to have a discussion with them about potentially doing some work with us, probably in the 101 course. I think this is a very exciting area. I love my TikTok, but it's not really about the frivolous aspect that I enjoy. It's about using it for us to move our careers forward.
Yes, I do have TikTok on my phone, but it's not something I've spent that much time on, so I'm definitely not. Could not be less qualified when it comes to telling people what to do with TikTok. So I'm definitely interested in that myself.
Yeah, so we'll see how that conversation goes later today. And you and I are off to the football that people hold and throw that shape like an egg. That football.
Yeah, the American football. Yes, so the Dolphins are playing in Tottenham in October. So we're gonna. That's on my list of things to do today. Is to see whether Mr. Dye wants to come with us as well, and we might treat ourselves to a nice seat for a nice evening, and then hopefully go and see the Dolphins win. I think they're playing the New York Giants. Can't remember, but anyway, it's someone like that. So that'll be fun. Looking forward to that.
That'll be I'll be breaking my NFL cherry.
Oh well, it's a good time, good way to do it. Yeah. It'll be fun. We'll maybe even give you a second dose in Vegas.
Yeah, the Raiders. Is Dolphins any good this year? You said they did everything to sign this expensive quarterback last year. Has he worked out?
Not expensive.
He's just very good.
No, he's a rookie. So
in the draft, right.
So in the draft, they picked him 5th overall. He played quite well last year. He's younger, so he's more experienced. He's got a year's experience underneath him, and he was coming off a really bad injury, so he had to kind of recuperate from that. But the Dolphins were good last year, and they're a dark horse this year. They might actually be quite good.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Well, I'm going to practice the lingo. I'm going to talk about tight ends and QBs. Have I got that right?
you have. 'Cause I'm actually reconsidering whether I want to go with you now. So
he's got a lovely tight end, that QB. There you go. That's the sort of sentence I'm going to put together. Now we have
apologies to American fans of American
we
football.
are now going to stop.
I think fans generally.
Yeah, apologise to the world. We are now going to stop waffling because I have a fantastic interview today. I really thoroughly enjoyed this. Really enjoyed it. Kathrin Hutson, who is a prolific writer. She's done a brilliant job in getting her career to where it is, and she is fascinatingly a very experienced ghostwriter, which was the area I was most interested in talking to her about. It's a really interesting area. It comes in different forms, and she works across those different forms. And we may even do some business together for one of our authors who's no longer with us, and some ghostwriting needs to be done at some point in that series. But that's by the by. Kathrin has a great story, a great background, and is a lovely person. Here's Kathrin Hutson.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Kathrin Hutson, welcome to the Self-Publishing Show.
Thank you so much, James. I'm happy to be here.
There's a lot of colour in the shot, particularly
Thank you.
if you're watching on YouTube. It's a striking, happy, vibrant colour, which I think is probably going to be you. I think you're going to be happy and vibrant. It's from reading your notes.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think you're right.
We will see. Don't feel pressure to be something else you're not. Okay, let's get into this. We're going to talk about quite a few things. I think you've got a good experience in indie publishing. We'll talk a bit about the writing process. I'm particularly interested in the ghostwriting bit that you did. But why don't we start with your background, which is equally compelling?
Why, yes, thank you. I've been writing fiction since I was 10. I remember the day I started writing.
Wow.
That was always what I wanted to do. And I majored in creative writing fiction at the University of Colorado at Boulder. Getting into their creative writing program was sort of my first real confirmation that this was meant for me, what I was meant for, and what I still wanted to do. And, my original goal was to go through 8 years of college and get my PhD in creative writing, end up teaching it so I could work on my own books at the same time. That was my plan, actually.
Right. 8 years is a long stretch to want to do, but you had. I'm impressed that you had a plan that detailed.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it was quite detailed, and I came out of the gate very, very well. And then, I ran into my own personal snags. I struggled with heroin addiction a year and a half after I started college. It got really bad, and so all my plans were waylaid. I had to do some work on myself. I had to do a lot of work on myself.
If you don't mind me asking, because that's such an interesting thing that you went through and frightening thing that I people at university get into ecstasy, I suppose, and marijuana and stuff. And most of I didn't go to university, so I missed that bit. But all my friends did a little bit of that. But it's not very often you hear people say heroin, which always feels to me like the scariest drug out there, and the one that's in a different league from everything else. How did you end up on heroin?
I was not with the best group of people at the time. And none of these people were anyone I went to school with. So it wasn't a part of college. It had actually started right after I graduated high school. And so I just fell in with the wrong group of people who had it. And, I did admittedly slide down that slippery slope. And tried to balance an addiction with 2 jobs and full-time school. And nobody can do that. And if they can, they're about to not be able to do it anymore. And I found that out. So it was not something that was available at school. I would not, of course, I would tell anyone going to college to just be aware and be careful.
And how did you get yourself out of it? Well, that's some people don't really get out of it, do they? So
most people don't. I was very fortunate. I actually ran into a bit of legal trouble and was offered it's sort of like a plea agreement, I suppose, to enter the drug court program in Colorado, which is this phenomenal legal court system program for first-time drug offenders. That was my crime, my charge of record. I was having, felony possession. And it was a 2-year program, very intensive. I lived in a sobriety house. I went to 12-step meetings, more than I can count. I had to see a probation officer once a month and go to group therapy. And I had court, and I had, random drug tests taken. It was a long road. But it's definitely what saved my life. Wow. I hadn't found people before that point in time who were so willing to step up for me specifically to help me get out of some pretty sticky situations that I had been in through my entire life. And just, even seeing strangers in the court system, the legal system, saying that they believed me and they saw my potential and my ability, and they wanted to do whatever was in their power to help me get back on my feet was huge. That was what saved me, I think. My first dose of self-worth.
Yeah, do you know what? It's really nice to hear that a sort of government program, a court program, was
right.
You talk so positively about it. We don't often hear that, so that's great. Well, we're really pleased that you did come through that. Well done, and no small measure, I'm sure, from your own determination. And then at some point, you obviously have the writing bug since that day, that fateful day, age 10. And how were you able to get back into it? And what happened?
Oh, that was another 4-year process of, me rebuilding my life and deciding what kind of person I wanted to be, after already figuring out what kind of person I didn't want to be. And it took a lot of self-love and self-forgiveness, which I think, whether or not any of us have been in a similar situation to mine, that fear of not being good enough for ourselves is, in my opinion, one of the most powerful limitations that we set on ourselves. And it kept me from writing a single word of fiction for 4 years. So everything I had wanted to do, I stopped. And I wasn't sure if I was ever going to be able to get back into it, if I could ever allow myself to start writing again, if I deserved to start writing again, because I had, in my mind, tossed it aside to do more nefarious things.
Yeah.
And so I started diving a little back into dabbling, working on a book that I had started when I was in college. And then I got pregnant. I did meet my husband and get married along the way in those 4 years. And it was actually knowing that I was about to become a mom, knowing how much time and energy and all the resources it takes to parent a brand new human. I was more, I think, acutely aware of how important it was to prioritize my first love, which was writing. And that if I didn't kick myself in the pants and get going again and make a commitment to make this part of my day every single day, I was probably never going to write again as a mom either. For some reason that was scarier and lit a fire under me more than anything else. So my daughter was born at the end of 2016, and I didn't write much. I, worked on a few things here and there when I could for that first year. But January 1st, New Year's Day of 2018, I made a promise to myself that I would write 1,000 words a day, Monday through Friday, no matter what. I was getting up early. I was, asking whoever was around at the time to watch my 1-year-old for me for however long it took to get out those 1,000 words. And then I think I may have bumped it up to 1,500 in the first quarter of that year, but I ended up writing an entire trilogy in 2018, which is something I never, ever thought was possible, just by breaking it down into those bite-sized chunks of, daily goals. That was very doable and very sustainable. And once I did that, I realized that there was a lot more I was probably capable of. I wasn't quite sure what that was at the time. But having had that personal fulfillment for myself of saying, okay, I'm going to make this a goal. As a stay-at-home mom, as a super incredibly busy person caring for another person, how am I going to make this work? I better figure it out. That's kind of actually been my mantra since then. Just figure it out. Yeah. And it has worked well. So after that, I, proved to myself that I could do something I thought was impossible. And that's really when I started getting back into it. And then at the end of, it was the end of 2019, I also found ghostwriting, which I just kind of fell into.
Well, I definitely want to talk to you about that, but let's just circle back slightly. So the trilogy you wrote, what is that? Yes. Was that dark fantasy? Yes,
dark epic fantasy. It's the Unclaimed trilogy. And I think more than anything else, that trilogy for me was having fun, making sure that I could do something again within a shortened timeline. And in November of 2018, I also published Sleepwater Beat, which is the first book in the Blue Helix series. It's LGBTQ plus dystopian sci-fi. And I had queried that book to traditional agents, and nobody wanted it, which, no big deal. I have an impressive stack of rejection letters. But I had already published 2 books previously in 2015, which I had written in high school, and they went through, 11 years of revisions and wondering if it was worth it. But yeah, then when I published Sleepwater Beat, that it became an international bestseller in March of 2019, and that was a really exciting realization as well, that I could do this. I could keep going. It's not impossible to get yourself out there and put yourself out there as an author. Then let's see, and then I'm trying to break up the timeline without diving into the ghostwriting part. That's so
we're saving
ingrained.
That bit.
We'll save it for later.
But what a recurring theme with this lead-up phase is you having to believe in yourself, or having to take seriously that you are successful and talented. Mm-hmm. And it seems a shame that you took so much convincing. You had to convince yourself so much there, but you got there. That seemed like a journey in its own right.
It was. It definitely was. And a big part of that journey and that struggle and taking so much convincing was just where I come from, where I came from, my home life, the way I was raised. Everything from my childhood has blended into the path that I have walked to get here, the good and the bad. And it was a lot of hard work to try and undo the things about my place in the world and what I was capable of offering, to the point where I am now, where it's like, I'm convinced it's fine. I don't need any work.
And you're doing well now. I mean, I can see. I'm looking at your books and your series on Amazon. I can see the numbers. It's a decent career for you now. Yes,
it is. It is, and it's still going up. I still have a long way to go, I know, but it's better now than I could have ever imagined when I started writing again. That was not 7 years ago. Or even when I had my daughter, and she's almost 5. been an incredible journey, and I'm most excited about the fact that it's not over yet.
Yeah. Okay, so the ghostwriting, which is an unusual area, and I don't think we've really covered it in any detail on the podcast before, so that's why I think I was interested in it. So just tell us I mean, I think we all have our own ideas of what ghostwriting is, but why don't you tell us what ghostwriting is?
Yes. Excuse me. Ghostwriting is, as a ghostwriter, my job is to help my clients create their books. And that comes in like so many different forms. I have taken previously written, completed manuscripts from my clients and have rewritten it in their own words, in their own voice and style, and just cleaned it up and added and taken away. I've had clients come to me with an idea for a story. Some of them were very, very, very detailed and came with PowerPoint presentations and everything. And some of them were just, these are the messages I want to handle. This is the genre. And so, I think that is the most collaboration involved when it's brainstorming and outlining and working with these clients one-on-one to help them write the story and put it out there into the world. It's their story.
So you help them write it, or do you write it as a ghostwriter?
I write it.
Oh,
yes,
write it. Yeah.
I am the writer. But there is a lot of collaboration. It's not my book, right? It's not what I want. So it's that ability to work with someone else who will, whose ideas I'm working with. And so I like to look at it as that I'm channeling other people. Okay. And then I also have, two of my biggest clients right now are larger publishers. So I will take on projects, where the books are published in very well-known names. And, at this point, I've been working with both of these clients actually for the last 2 years, 2.5. And so now at this point, they'll send me an idea, 3 to 4 pages of a series, and I just get to run with it, which is really incredibly fun. And so, of course, the other part of ghostwriting being that my name is never on these books. I am not, I'm not acknowledged, and I sign NDAs, so I can't say what books I've written or who my clients are. But I absolutely love it, and I think without having sort of fallen into ghostwriting and having a reason, a deadline from someone else, and upcoming payments, that was really what sparked my motivation and my ability to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. I remember the first contract just for one book that I had ever gotten when I first started ghostwriting. It was for an 80,000 word book, and I had 30 days. And I said, yeah, sure, absolutely, I'll do this. And I looked at the, after I had conversations with the client, and then I just couldn't believe that I had actually agreed to do this. I'd never written a book in a month before. Now I write about 2.5, 3 books a month. But at that point in time, 80,000 words in 30 days just felt like I had just dug a hole for myself. But I did it, which was what I needed.
So that's amazing. So I think we can all think of one or two, I won't say any names in this conversation, just in case they're your clients, but we can all think of one or two very well-known names. In some cases, the author's no longer with us, but their names still appear on books, or they're just old. And I kind of understand at that stage, you don't want to be necessarily writing all month, but your name is a brand. And I understand that type of ghostwriting, which it sounds like is a bit of what you do for the publishers.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other side of it, I mean, I had some dark days in the last 11 years trying to write my first novel. And I can remember having drinks with somebody who said to me, you should get a ghostwriter. And I thought, God, that would be, it just felt like, obviously, it wasn't what I wanted to do. But the fact that I had a manuscript and sort of tried to write this a few times, do people come to you in that state to say, I can't write this, I'm not a writer? and then put out the book with their name on the cover. Basically, you've written it.
Yes.
Okay.
I do that as well. Yes. And I've had clients come to me who have used previous ghostwriters, and they want to see what I can do with the manuscript after that. And so we dive in together. I have had clients come to me looking for an editor only at first. I did used to spend more of my time editing fiction manuscripts, and that was my side hustle before my daughter was born. And then I was ghostwriting and editing at the same time for a while, and then I had to stop editing. Really, I had to be perfectly honest with myself and with all my clients. All I want to do is write. That's really all I want to do, and I'm doing that now. So I have to, stay.
How do you write? We will talk about your books more specifically in a minute, but sure. I know from your description you write fairly bloody, violent books and quite dark. You have your voice. We all have our voice as an author, which you find and maybe changes, develops over time. But in your case, you've got to write in somebody else's voice. How? Yeah. I mean, presumably people who have very different backgrounds, different genders, all the rest of it to you. How do you do that?
I have been asked this question a lot, and I wish I had a better answer. I would love to be able to tell other people how to do this. I can only guess and speculate, really. I think, I read everything. I read everything. And so in that regard, I've been able to, over the years, absorb different voices, different styles, different genres. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I get bored very easily. I can't listen to one album all the way through from start to finish. I can't read two books in the same genre back to back or write them back to back. So I'm always looking for pretty much the complete opposite of what I just consumed or produced. And that, as far as I can tell, is really the only thing that I think makes sense, that has an effect on the way that I am able to just be a chameleon. I wasn't sure that I could take on someone else's voice either, but I tried it. And I tried it in urban fantasy first. And I had never written urban fantasy before, let alone trying to write in someone else's voice and style. That first book taught me a lot about how to let go.
I mean, that's a reasonable description of how you do it, but I just want to explore this a bit more. I'm not going to name any names. Let's take a thriller writer in his 70s, been writing, stock James Bond, CIA-esque thrillers all his life. Could you write his book?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Wow. I have written that. Yeah,
you could do sweet romance. Nobody kills anyone in that one.
I know it's not very fun. So, okay, admittedly, and I didn't cover this, romance, sweet romance, and probably like historical Western romance, but that's it. I can't do because no one dies, right? It doesn't go dark, and that is where my heart really is. I have recently just started a really big, kind of top secret for now project that is very, very, very dark, surprisingly steamy paranormal romance, which was not ever what I expected to be doing. But because I'm taking it to such very dark and psychologically twisted places, it's incredibly fun.
Oh, this sounds good.
Yeah, thank you. So when I get to play with those things and bring my love of all the darkness and all the, not so much angst, but just really a lot of torture, that's where my heart is. But yeah, I've written in every other genre: urban fantasy, epic fantasy, space opera, lit RPG, which. Wow.
That's quite specialist. I have no real clue. I know what lit RPG is, but I can't really, without reading a book, I can't envisage it. But that seems quite specialist to me.
It really is. And, with I've had 3 different clients I've written lit RPG with, and I do tell them, I say, I don't do numbers. I'm not a math person. I write. So if like, you're going to have to fill in all the stats, and I'll just like mark where they need to go. And so, that worked out. And yeah, I mean, I don't even know what other, I've done YA and academy. Like I've done nonfiction. I've done like memoirs.
Because that's the other area. I think a more common area of ghostwriting that we're perhaps familiar with is the non-fiction, like memoirs. I mean, classically, a motor racing driver would get somebody to write his autobiography or her autobiography. And financially, this pays okay? Can you give us some ideas of how much, if I wanted you to write the next book because I'm lazy, how much would it cost you to? You'd have to read my first book, presumably, and then get into my head. I'm not going to ask you to do this, by the way, just to be crystal clear. When my next book comes out, everyone's going to say, do you know, I reckon Kathrin Hutson like that.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. It sounds just like you.
Yeah. So what sort of price would you be quoting?
Within the $5,000 to $7,000 range is generally where the prices for me now fall per book. I have taken on $15,000 nonfiction project here and there. Those are the nonfiction projects are rare. They're not where my heart is, but if it is on a topic that I feel like I can really dive into and align with, then absolutely I'll take it.
And if it's on the topic of receiving $15,000, you'd do it. That sounds like a reasonable topic too. I think any one of us who's working in freelance would be. This
is what I'm doing.
So that's interesting. So somebody paying that sort of money per book needs to be able to make. I mean, I guess not everyone does it to make money out of their books. Maybe they just want to have a novel to their name, or.
For the nonfiction books that are in the much higher price point, these are people who. Most of them run their own businesses. They're entrepreneurs, and it is not a writing business. They're not publishing. They're not authors. And so they're using a published book in their name on their topic of expertise to either give people a deeper insight into their life and their stories and their ideas, their own personal story, or to supplement, marketing of their business. And so it's not a matter of how, I think for them, it's not a matter of how much money they are spending on a ghostwriter as it is they want to make sure that it's done a certain way.
Which is a bit different from someone with a fiction novel. But are there, I guess for the publishers, if they've got a brand, if their author is a brand and they've got a fairly guaranteed market for it, it is going to be worth them spending that sort of money on getting those novels written.
Yes. Yep. And they keep coming in and building on the series. Well, and so, so far for me and my clients, it has been very worth it for both of us.
I do read a couple of authors who I know are ghostwritten. So it'd be hilarious if I've read one of your books. I wouldn't know because that's how good you are. Oh,
well, thank you. It would be hilarious. I guess maybe you'd have to ask them because they didn't sign an NDA.
Yeah. I don't meet those sort of people. Okay, so that's really interesting to me. And is it something? I mean, obviously you're good at it. There's no question about that. I can tell that. And I guess you get booked up. Is this something you have to manage your time? Because there are 2 or 3 books a month. It's crazy work.
It's a lot. I do have to manage my time very strictly. And, I work for myself. So I have wiggle room here and there. I can move things around if I need to, but on a day-to-day basis, my daily schedule is pretty regimented because I work the best under a structure and a bit of pressure. And I say a bit as in like a lot of pressure. That's where I work best.
Take us through your working day, Kathrin.
All right. Well, I wake up at 3:00 every morning, including
serious?
the weekends.
This isn't a joke.
I'm serious. It's not a joke.
Not because your daughter's too old to be crying at that night now for that.
Right. No. Yes. No.
This is
She's
you
not crying.
voluntarily waking up at 3:00 in the morning.
Yep.
Okay.
I know. I'm a crazy person. The recommendation to do that was made to me by a fellow author whose daughter is, I think, just a year older than mine. And she was working a full-time job at the time. Actually, I introduced her to ghostwriting, and she quit her job at the beginning of this year because she was writing full-time, ghostwriting full-time, which is fantastic. But she said, I wake up at 3:30 in the morning to get some writing time in before my daughter wakes up. And I said the same thing to her. I was like, are you crazy? What's wrong with you? And it stuck in my head for months and months and months until I finally decided to try it. And it was difficult to get used to at first, of course, waking up that late. I used to bartend and go to bed at 3:00 in the morning. So it was completely reversed. But I've been waking up at 3 every morning for the last 2.5 years. And that is the most potent time of day for me to begin writing. So most of my work happens I wake up at 3, I start writing at 4. It happens between 4 and 9:30 or 10 until I have to take a longer break. So yeah, I write in usually 35 to 50 or 60 minute sprints, depending on what I'm writing and how my physical body is feeling during the day. And I set a timer for those 35, 45, 60-minute sprints. And when the timer goes off, I force myself to stand up, walk around my office, go get a drink, go to the bathroom, no matter where I am in the writing process. When 5 minutes or 10 minutes is up, I sit back down and do it again. I take an hour break 3 days a week to help my daughter get ready for school. And my husband is a stay-at-home dad, so he handles everything else.
That's useful. I was going to say that's more than useful. That's essential by the sounds of it.
It is. And I will always say that I would not be where I am right now in my career with any of my books, any of it, if it weren't for my husband. He has literally, it's only possible because he's been on my team the entire time and has, taken the responsibility of, I think, everything else in our lives. So I can just write all day, which is fantastic. So yeah, I normally take a break 7 to 8, and then I sit back down again. Usually my intense writing sprints, like series of sprints, last about 4 to 5 hours, and I'll take a longer break then. That's about 3 or 3.5 sprinting sessions in a day. And then I am finished for the day at between 3:00 and 4:30, depending on my word count quota for the day for whatever project I'm working on. I do some meditation. I work out in our basement. And then I'm finished by the time my daughter comes home from school. And that's my writing day. It is just sitting down and grinding. But I don't really have to do anything else. I mean, there's a lot to do on the other side with my own books that I have published. I do have a team helping me with, marketing and ads and social media engagement and my newsletter. So that's gotten a lot easier now for me to just focus on the writing.
So what time do you go to bed?
Between 8:30 and 9:30.
Okay, so pretty early. I'm quite pleased you said that and not.
Yeah, I get
go to bed at midnight.
Oh my gosh, no, I could not do that. There was a couple months ago, I couldn't get to sleep. I was laying in bed for hours. It wasn't happening. I finally got to sleep at 10:30 and woke up wide awake, ready to go, just like someone had just injected me with caffeine at 2:00 in the morning. And I wrote a whole day. It was very strange. And I was dead afterwards. But
Yeah.
no, I do get sleep. Sleep is very important.
It is. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fascinating. And just a little bit about, I used to ask this question routinely, but I've sort of stopped writing it. But I know, asking it, but I know people are interested in more than just writing habits, but how you actually write. So do you sit at a normal desk? Do you have a sit-stand desk? Do you have one of those kneeler things? Do you write on your bed with a laptop? And what do you write in? Word, Scrivener, etc.?
Excellent. I have, when I started ghostwriting, I still was using my laptop, and I had to prop it up on a box, and I got an external keyboard that I would prop on my lap. And then I did have a standing desk and one of those really fancy squishy mats that have all the bumps on them for your feet. And I tried all kinds of things to help me adjust to writing for such long periods of time, broken up with sprints. And then we moved to Colorado from Vermont just a little over a year ago. And I was able to invest in a desktop, a computer, and a tower. And I have a really, really fantastic, it's actually a gaming computer. I do game on it sometimes, but I wanted something that would not let me down when I'm in the middle of writing, like my laptop had been. So I have a dual monitor set up on my big giant desk. And one of my screens is horizontal, like a normal screen. I think they're 42 inch. No, there's no way. I don't know numbers. Numbers elude me. They're big.
They're big screens.
They're big screens. I turn the other monitor that's on my right, sort of catty corner, horizontally, because when I am writing, when I'm working on, either actually anything, because I have what I'm writing right in front of me, and then on the horizontal monitor, I have the beats for whatever book I'm working on, or the outline, or a reference material, whether it's a series Bible that I've created or anything that I need right there. It saves so much time from clicking back and forth like I used to. And I can type with my eyes closed. I actually type 110 words per minute when I'm transcribing something or copying something. So I type very quickly, and it's nice to have something I can look at without having to take my hands off the keyboard.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're a machine in that sense. I mean,
Thank you. Yes, I'm a crazy person machine.
But well, I mean it in a kind of complimentary way, that you've worked out how to be as efficient as possible and get stuff done, which I wish I was like. I wish I had a 5% of that. My books would be done so much more quickly. So how many words a day do you get done, do you think? Well, you must know.
Yes, I keep track of everything, which has allowed me to see, where I'm going, where I've been. I average about 15,000 words a day.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Makes my 800 look quite puny. Okay.
No.
No, it's very impressive. It's a fascinating glimpse into that world of ghostwriting. Let's talk a bit about your writing now. So you said your heart is dark. You didn't quite say it like that, but what you said is that darkness, that violent end that people end up with. Or what is it about that fascinates you or attracts you? Is this a deeply personal question? You don't have to feel compelled to answer it.
I think on the surface level, we love what we love, right? And I can't say that I love the darkness because I want my life to reflect that. I do not. And I have a very light-filled, joyful, abundant life. And you can tell looking at me, yes. I'm not a super broody, creepy person, but my tastes might be. I started reading Stephen King when I was 10. I started with It, actually. Mm-hmm. And after reading this gigantic book that, 20% of went right over my head, but it scared me silly, I kept coming back for more. I wanted something that was more intense. And I think now that I'm talking about it, I think honestly, something that felt more real to me, my childhood was not butterflies and rainbows. Not to say that anyone's is. And at the same time, mine was very difficult. And so I think I always got angry when I was reading happy-go-lucky, foo-foo, happy endings. Everyone's great and it's fantastic, because it just seemed so fake to me. It is not what I was raised to believe about the world. It's not what I was exposed to. And so I wanted something that reflected more of my own experiences, where the characters are going through the same horrible rigors of their daily existence, but at least these ones I was reading about could do something about it in my mind. That's the first time I've actually dived that deep to pull out and answer that question. Thank you, James.
It's a good answer. And I think I mentioned this before, that someone said recently, and I really like this, we misunderstand what escapism is when we say people read this because they like to escape. It's escapism. Yeah. What we really mean is it's not escaping. It's using books and stories to make sense of things and to help you manage your life. And I can understand how saccharine, with your background, a saccharine sweet romance is not really going to assist you in making sense of your life and moving forward. So, well, that's a really interesting answer, and thank you for being open with us on that.
Of course.
But ultimately, I suppose, even with these dark fantasies and dark stories, a lot of the themes are still redemption, are they not? And heroes and villains and stuff. So regardless of the setting, there are some common humanity themes there, aren't there? Just people coping in different circumstances.
Absolutely. And I do have some, big bad villains fighting the heroes. For the most part, I really, really prefer in my own books morally gray characters who, we're not sure, are they good, are they bad, what are they going to do? We don't know. And I like to make them their own villain of their story. It is a reflection of my experiences with life. I was my own villain for a very long time. And while I usually stay away from happy ever afters, I will go towards the happily never afters or the happily for now. And there's always a thread of hope still there at the end. And the theme that I am always trying to get across in my work, no matter what genre it is that, the mistakes we make and the harm that we've caused to ourselves and others don't define who we are, and they don't define what we're capable of in the future, and that took me 4 years after I got clean to fully understand. And now I've made it a part of my work, which has been just so cool.
Yeah.
It's just so cool.
Really cool. Well, it's helped you, isn't it? By the sounds of it, it's helped you exactly do what we just discussed there, make sense of things or try to make sense of things and try to plot and help yourself move forward. But
yeah, I think at this point, I just really love it. I get a kick out of writing fight scenes and, making myself cry when I'm killing someone.
Who doesn't like doing that? Yes, just to clarify that. Well, who needs a therapist when you're a writer, right? You can.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Greatest therapy.
We don't need any help at all.
How fascinating, really gripping talking to you. I've gone on to my third reel on my camera, which I don't normally do with interviews. So although we should say off air, I did collect my eggs, didn't I, in the middle of the interview? I thought you said you cracked your eggs. I was like, you did? Really? No,
I didn't see you.
No, hopefully they're safely on the table in there. But the Eggman came, not John Lennon's Eggman, but the actual Eggman came in the middle of the interview. I think we could go on talking about this, but we'll draw it to a close. And Kathrin, I'm really lovely talking to you and hearing your story. You're a very honest and open person. And I think I sort of learnt a bit about the process that we all go through listening to you. And also just to say, you've obviously had a start in life that was not the ideal platform that everybody gets. And it seems such a shame to me that it took so long for you to work out your own self-worth. But you are there now, right? Do you believe in yourself now, or are you still on that journey?
I I am here. And, I appreciate you sharing that. And at the same time, I don't think it's a shame at all. I wouldn't be who I am or where I am without having gone through what I went through. And hopefully other people can take the same message. It doesn't matter what we've done, what's been done to us, what we wish were different, or even how much we believe in ourselves. It's all possible.
Yeah.
It just may take a little more time.
I guess we wouldn't be the same people if those things hadn't happened. So you're right to
Absolutely
say that.
not.
Yeah. Kathrin, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, James. This was great.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
There you go. I absolutely loved talking to Kathrin and found her very inspirational. And that's fascinating, the ghostwriting. So she has people who come to her who want to be an author but don't want to write the book, which sounds like a quite cool thing, having gone through the labour of writing books. And although we might also consider it a little bit cheating system, but sometimes it's authors who have big names, big traditionally published authors who are branding themselves, and she writes the books for the big traditional companies. In some cases, obviously, no names given out in that interview. And finally, the ghostwriting I do understand a little bit more, which is non-fiction, which is a business guru who uses a book as a calling card, but has no experience in writing a book, and she interviews them, sits down, makes the notes, and then writes the book for them. But she writes prolifically. It's somebody who gets up at 3:00 in the morning. I mean, she does go to bed sort of between 8 and 9, but she gets up at 3:00 in the morning to a chunk of her writing before the world starts every day, which is quite something.
That's impressive. Yeah, I certainly can't say I do that, but no, good for her.
Yeah, really good. And one of my favourite interviews this year. I do occasionally get up at 3:00 in the morning, but this week it's been to deal with a puppy, and it's not been pleasant, I can tell you. The puppy who eats everything, and it eventually emerges one way or the other, usually in the middle of the night.
That's a lovely image. Thank you.
I won't give you any more detail than that, except to say it's why I'm looking quite tired. Right, that is it. So tomorrow, definitely I am going to go and do that flight sim in a tornado in Lincolnshire, and I shall tell you about it next time we record. Do you enjoy your week in Suffolk, Mark?
I will do. Yes, I'll be returning refreshed and probably a bit. I don't know what the weather's going to be like, but it's been pretty rubbish so far. So we'll just have to see.
And I'm going to guess you won't have space in your car for your golf clubs.
No, definitely not. No, you've been in my car now, so you know there's a limited space in the Taycan for golf clubs, especially when we've got luggage coming as well. So no, I'll be leaving those behind.
You need a duplicate set, don't you, to keep in Suffolk?
I probably do.
My wife is still talking about the acceleration demonstration you gave in your Porsche, where you stopped the car on a deserted road, I should say, pressed the accelerator, which is effectively an on-off switch in an electric car, and we went 0 to 60 in 2-point-something seconds, and it was
about 3 seconds.
If anyone's been on the Aerosmith ride at Disney, one of the Disney parks at Studios,
that's Universal.
No, it's not Universal. It's definitely Disney. I think it's Studios.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Studios. Yeah, that's
Disney
right.
Studios in Florida. If you've been on that Aerosmith ride where they have this sudden acceleration, it was like that. That's what it was like. It was incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's fun.
You'll have to demonstrate it to my son at some point. He would love that. Okay, right, that's it. That is it. So all that remains for me to say is it's a goodbye from him.
And a goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
Get show notes, the podcast archive, and free resources to boost your writing career at selfpublishingshow.com. Join our thriving Facebook group at selfpublishingshow.com/Facebook. Support the show at patreon.com/selfpublishing show. And join us next week for more help and inspiration so that you can make your mark as a successful indie author. Publishing is changing, so get your words into the world and join the revolution with the Self-Publishing Show.